Hey everyone, it's September 11th, 2025, and we've had a couple of monumental days. Well, today being the 24th anniversary of 9/11, and yesterday with the murder of Charlie Kirk. I've titled this stream, which I'm doing as a live stream, obviously, that we're at war. And we are at war. We need to realize that. We have to accept that we are at war against these leftists who are determined to destroy our country. They're absolutely a part of a greater agenda, an agenda that, while financed by George Soros and others, I think is even wider than that. And if you notice, everything about the left is determined to destroy Western society. You just have to look at everything they push: transgenderism, cut the penis off your child. The world's overpopulated. Don't have children. Their hatred for white people. Their hatred for civilization, for anything decent. And this murder of Charlie Kirk is just one more step in the direction of war. And while the right does not acknowledge it and thinks this is just a matter of political differences, we will continue to see these events occur. I'll talk more as the stream goes on about it and as further streams in the future. This is the Republic Report. Let's take a look at what's going on currently on YouTube. Let's just check in with some current news, some current updates. They've been trying to find the shooter. So let's go and take a look and see what they might have found out.
And we begin with this Fox News alert. We have new information on the manhunt for an assassin on the run in Utah. And you see on the left of your screen, Christian, young conservative leader, husband, dad, friend, Charlie Kirk, assassinated. And now the new details are firming up to catch that killer and bring him to justice. We're getting a clearer picture of just how someone could escape that crowded scene on that college campus and simply vanish. Well, almost. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. New video shows an individual on the rooftop at Utah Valley University, where Charlie Kirk was speaking and then assassinated. State officials with more details on the man on the roof.
This subject arrived on campus, shortly away from campus. We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location. After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and crossed the roof to a shooting location. After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and
Charlie believed in the power of free speech and debate to shape ideas and to persuade people. He comes on college campuses and he debates. That is foundational to the formation of our country, to our most basic constitutional rights. And when someone takes the life of a person because of their ideas or their ideals, then that very constitutional foundation is threatened. Nothing I say can unite us as a country. Nothing I can say right now can fix what is broken. Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk. Our hearts are broken. We mourn with his wife, his children, his family, his friends. We mourn as a nation.
CB Cotton is in Orem, Utah. CB.
Hi, Harris. Well, right now, FBI agents say they have images and video of the suspect. They're not sharing any of this material with the public at this time, but instead, they're suggesting they're using all of this content to closely track the suspect.
The suspect blended in well with a college institution. We're not releasing any details right now. I mean, we will soon, but right now we're not. But that individual appears to be of college age. We are confident in our abilities to track that individual.
Agents say the shooter got on campus less than an hour before assassinating 31-year-old Charlie Kirk, who was visiting Utah Valley University in Orem, about an hour away from Salt Lake City. The FBI says the gunman used the building's stairwells to get up on the roof and fire that fatal shot from about 200 yards away, sending the crowd of about 3,000 people into sheer panic. The FBI special agent in charge of the Bureau's Salt Lake City office said at the news conference today that agents recovered a high-powered bolt-action rifle in a wooded area where the shooter had fled. The FBI laboratory will analyze this weapon. A young fan telling us he is still in disbelief by what he saw yesterday.
It sounded like a 4th of July popper that you can throw on the ground. I heard and everybody just started ducking. I look over at Charlie and he put his hands up like this and falls back in his chair and people catch him.
Harris, the sense I'm getting here on the ground is that investigators know a lot about who this suspect is. It's at this point a matter of figuring out where he is. Back over to you.
CB, thank you very much. Darren Porcher, former NYPD lieutenant and U.S. Army veteran, is with me now. You and I have done police specials and whatnot together, and we are very forensic. And when we take a look at something like this, I look forward to doing that with you now. So what are the forensics of what we've learned so far, and what do they tell you?
Well, there's a lot that we have to unpack. One of the first things is police were able to identify the entrance and the exit of the shooting. This is paramount because they've now captured facial images as to who the shooter may be. And when we go back to the Boston Marathon bombing, that's when we saw crowdsourcing information that was used as it relates to facial recognition. It's manifested 10 times since then, but this is paramount as it relates to how police are going to be able to identify who the shooter is. In addition to that, we're going to look for DNA evidence because the shooter laid down on that roof, and it's impossible for you to enter or exit a location without leaving a trace of DNA. It can be skin fragments, hair samples, etc. So right now, law enforcement has a lot, and you have the triangulation between federal law enforcement, state law enforcement, local law enforcement, and they're going to work in tandem in sharing this information to ensure that we bring this violent assailant into custody.
Well, law enforcement was doing what they do so well. They were looking for people known to them. That the first older gentleman I know from talking with people like Jason Chaffetz and others in Utah who have said, you know, well, he shows up to political rallies. The guy's kind of a loudmouth, blah, blah, blah. He was already on their radar, hasn't done any harm, but that was the first person we saw picked up, that older gentleman. And so they were actively looking for perhaps people that might fit something that they were after. I don't know if it was movement, it was familiarity, I don't know. But this guy, what do you make of him and what you're learning about him?
I go back to the Charles Whitman shooting back in the 60s on the University of Texas campus, whereas he shot people from upwards of 200 yards away. And he used a bolt-action rifle, which is the same type of weapon that was recovered in this particular instance. This is someone that clearly had an understanding of how to shoot people at these distances. And bear in mind, Charles Whitman did not use a scope. He didn't use a tripod. He didn't use a bipod. This was merely the focus of using a bolt-action rifle. I was an officer in the Army, and this is something that I can do, but at the same token, it requires a level of training. So this is something that we're going to look to the background of this.
To find that killer. Here are some of the witnesses who were there yesterday.
It's really traumatizing, definitely something that I've never witnessed before. I think a lot of the college students were there, even some teenagers and some kids with families.
There were people just rushing. I was doing all I could to help them out, get them out, and yeah, just bodies everywhere.
You know, it's something where you feel like you're safe on campus, and then it changed really quickly.
Right away, people started lay on the ground. Everyone started praying. That was one thing that we all just instinctively did.
Amen to that. You said it would have been just so chaotic.
Chaotic is an understatement. And we go back to the failed assassination attempt against President Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. It is a major challenge to secure an outside venue for a prior president, because just take in mind, Trump had Secret Service protection and an assailant was able to fire a shot at him. So although Charlie Kirk had security, that outside venue is very difficult to maintain a fortification. And remember, it wasn't really a high threat, but this was a welcoming environment. He's at a university in Utah which welcomes his views. And the one thing about Charlie Kirk was this: he always encouraged discourse, but he discouraged violence. He felt that if we continue our discourse, we won't have violence. And sadly enough, we had someone that didn't adhere to that principle.
Real quickly, lay the day out for us, if you can. Next steps. You've got images, so on and so forth. Just real quick, what you see coming.
I think law enforcement already has a subject, and they're actually focused on getting that person. When we look at doorbell ring cameras, DNA that will be extracted from the weapon, I just think it's a matter of time. And they're not releasing this information to the public because they don't want to scare the suspect, and I believe that they have a location in mind to address.
Darren Porcher, thank you always for your expertise.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-host Harris Faulkner.
All right, let's check some other current news. That's the most recent Fox update I've seen. It's 2:53 p.m. Central Time, 9/11/2025. Here's Megyn Kelly 20 minutes ago. Let's see what she has to say. She was really broken up over this yesterday. I really like Megyn Kelly for the most part.
We want to update you on the latest in the search to find his assassin, because the news is breaking by the minute and what we know right now about motive. Charlie Kirk's killer engraved the ammunition used to murder him with pro-transgender ideology, according to reporting in multiple outlets, to the surprise of literally no one. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I have more to report to you, okay? But I just have to pause here. Of course, that's the first thing I thought yesterday. I'm sure it ran through a lot of the minds of you watching this program as we did it live. Charlie was outspoken on the trans issue and many issues. But there's one particular group that's been running around killing Americans in the name of transgender ideology lately, and it's transgender activists or individuals or those who proclaim that they are. Doesn't mean they're all murderous, but there's a particularly high percentage committing crimes these days. And it is responsible and important to say so, which is what Charlie was doing. The thought that this was a person acting to avenge some sort of trans person or objecting to Charlie's stance on the trans issue is entirely chilling to me, because when Charlie and I first became friends, this was an issue he wasn't even talking about that much, but he was resonating with some on the right and was a growing issue. And he told me that one of the reasons why I kept coming into his algorithm and catching his attention was because we were talking about this issue, and his sister, who's also outspoken and a Christian, had been forwarding him, I guess, a bunch of videos she'd seen on our show. That's what he told me. And of course, like many on the right, it became more and more in his lens over the past few years because it's grown in the public sphere. It's hard to avoid. And you've got the vast majority of Americans right now ignoring it out of a sense of politeness or kindness, a misperceived sense of kindness and not saying anything about it. And then you've got this smaller faction of us who have been jumping up and down about it. And Charlie became one of them. And I, of course, had become one of them and am one of them and will continue to be one of them. For kindness, on the right, who will not be silenced and who will make it our mission now to continue saying all the things that you thought you silenced with that bullet. And guess what? You can't take us all out. If people are true to Charlie's legacy, if college students and high school students who felt inspired at all by Charlie feel the need to live up to his example, they'll say it too. And they can't take us all out for speaking the truth about one of the most divisive, awful issues we've ever had infect our culture. I would love to say the left is learning, that the media is learning, and that now that they see yet again that this was an issue behind a brutal assassination, a murder of one of our national gems, that they'll see the error of their ways, that they'll start realizing they cannot keep coddling this dangerous ideology. But I know it won't be this way. I know it's not true. I know because I understand the media, and I know because I saw CNN after Steven Crowder was the first to report this, what was on the cartridge. CNN, and then the Wall Street Journal ultimately matched his reporting, but he broke it, Steven Crowder. CNN popped up a chyron on their screen and put up an article at CNN.com that said cultural phrases were engraved. Cultural phrases were engraved on the cartridges. Here's what the reporting actually says, that it was phrases on the cartridges expressing, quoting here, expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. Transgender.
Yeah, I suggest you go check out Megyn Kelly on YouTube. I don't want to play the entire video for copyright reasons, of course. But, yeah, CNN, of course, always obfuscating, always... well, they have a narrative. They have a narrative to spin and a narrative to protect. That's why they didn't report on this Irina, Ukrainian lady who was murdered by a black. Blacks are 72 times more likely to kill a white person than a white person is a black person. But how is it they only amplify anytime a white person kills a black person, which, granted, is incredibly rare, but they capitalize, just like with the Derek Chauvin situation. So they always amplify what they need for their narrative. Why is this? Why? What has been going on for years and years in our society? It is part of a larger strategy. I don't know. I would love to fill in the blanks ultimately. Is it behind the George Soroses? Is it the Rothschilds? Is it that conspiratorial, or is it China, who is financing ultimately all of this? Because I'll tell you, one way to win a war would be to figure out a way to make that country and the Western world as a whole, because they know the Western countries have each other's backs, find a way to get them to destroy themselves. And then you can walk your troops on in. Maybe you have to be patient, 10, 20, 30, 100 years. But then there really will be not much of a war to fight. You protect your country, your values, your population, and you figure a way to subvert the other side. And this is what I imagine is behind the overarching strategy that we have been facing. And this is the strategy that the left follows. Now, many, certainly those at the top, are very conscious of what it is. A lot are being paid off, I'm sure. A lot are on board with destroying the Western world. And then sadly, you have I think you have a lot of leftists that are just ignorant and easily brainwashed and manipulated, and who have joined in out of pathological empathy, as it has been termed, as I've heard it termed recently, which is, I suppose that's the most, that's the nicest way to look at it. The most charitable way to look at their motivation is pathological empathy. But somehow, to me, that just doesn't work. Well, I suppose it could work with complete ignorance that your racism towards white people is being empathetic towards blacks, and being totally brainwashed that somehow they were oppressed with slavery. Not that they sold themselves. That just doesn't work. All of these narratives that they have spun to brainwash the left, but again, I feel like those are the puppet strings. Who's the puppet master? What is the overall agenda? And I think it's more of what I was mentioning earlier, that they're, well, let's look at where the end result will be. The end result will be the destruction of our countries, with open borders, letting in the third world, incompatible third worlders into the United States and these European nations. It will ultimately result in the dilution of white people and the destruction of Western culture and the weakening, because diversity is not a strength. Diversity causes conflict, as we have seen. Unity is our strength. China, for instance, is very unified in their ethnicity, in their culture, in their population. And, they're also very, very intelligent, unlike other demographics. And there is a scale. And, of course, this would be called racism. But is it racist to say that Asians, on average, are more intelligent than Caucasians? And Caucasians, on average, are more intelligent than sub-Saharan Africans, as far as IQ tests go. Now, you can call that racist, or you can call it facing reality, and the left does not want us to face reality. Now, not to offend some, but I'm not... The one thing the right gets wrong, in my opinion, is religion. I'm not religious. Although I am a cultural Christian, I come from the West, obviously, genetically, ethnically, culturally, and but to me, religion is illogical. But I'm certainly aligned with them morally on religion and so forth. But despite that, everything else culturally is wonderful, in my opinion, and they want us to destroy ourselves from within. Again, let's get back to what obviously has to be the ultimate objective for those puppet masters pulling the strings. Anyway, let's it's a little bit divergent, but this killing of Charlie Kirk, which is really the focus, and why I say we're at war, well, that's not why. It's just one more strike that should illustrate to people on the right that we are at war. It's just one more sign. So let's see if we can find any other news about current events, about especially this Charlie Kirk situation. Here, looks like Fox Live is live right now. Let's take a look at this.
Public's help in these types of cases, and no tip is too small or insignificant. Thank you.
Commissioner James Matthews from Sky News. Can I ask about the shooter? There's clearly information about him or her. So you're confident of this thing, that's exactly what they are. Can you talk to us about their movements, their demeanor? Do you think it's a man? And also, can I ask, what are the security arrangements in place? Was that movement being monitored?
Absolutely. So what I'll release about the suspect is suspect blended in well with the college. And we're not releasing many details right now, and we will soon. But right now we're not. But that individual appears to be of college age. We are confident in our abilities to track that individual. If we're unsuccessful in identifying them immediately, we will reach out for the public's help and the media's help in pushing those photos. That was a new development overnight, working through the night, studying those cameras. So that's something that's new and that we're working through right now. As far as the security, I cannot speak to that. Neither the Department of Public Safety nor the Federal Bureau of Investigation was involved in the planning or security of this event, and that'll have to be a question later for other agencies.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that you found the gun in a wooded area. Do you believe that the suspect could be hiding in the woods? And is that suspect possibly still in this area?
So that's a good question, and it's a question that goes to the safety of the community, right? No, not in those woods. We've walked through those woods and secured it. As to the community, I can tell you that this was a targeted event. We don't believe that the community is at risk. However, we are exhausting every resource to find him, and we will do so.
Special Agent Bowles, that is coming with the BBC. From the images you have,
Is at risk. However, we are exhausting every resource to find him, and we will do so.
Special Agent Bowles, that is coming with the BBC. From the really the suspect's face. You say he's college age. Do you believe he was from this university? And how far do you think he may have gone in this time span?
So I can't comment specifically on his face or any details such as that, as it's continuing to be a part of the investigation. And again, we'll release that shortly. However, we're doing everything we can to find him, and we're not sure how far he has gone yet. But we will do our
But you have a
best.
clear image of his face?
We have images of the suspect.
Did you trace the gun's owner?
The gun that you've been able to recover, do you believe you know who this person is, the person that you're looking for?
Again, as part of the investigation, we're not releasing any details such as that right now.
Any fingerprints or DNA?
We are exhausting all of our resources.
All right. Hopefully we have an update soon. Hopefully they capture this murdering son of a bitch. I do not believe that these theories that people are proposing that it had to be a professional. No, it's quite doable for anybody with 10 minutes of training with a bolt-action rifle and a scope to hit a target from 200 yards plus. So I think this comes from naivete. I think this was probably one of the many leftist young people who absolutely hate the right, and Charlie Kirk was brilliant. I'm quite a bit older than, hell, he's young enough to have been my son. But I could recognize that he was very brilliant, very articulate, and he was very peaceful. He just wanted dialogues with people. But of course, the left and their agenda is irrational. If you give it any thought, it's not in anybody's interest in the Western world, and it is self-destructive and illogical. They're showing a photo of supposedly of the sniper, potentially of the sniper. So let's hope they capture him. Anyway, if you've ever argued with a leftist, you know that it's an impossible task because they don't operate on logic. So you cannot argue with them. Pushing the concept that a man can become a woman by putting on a dress and cutting off his penis. This lunacy you cannot argue with. So, and again, you have to realize that's because this is something bigger. It's part of something bigger. And what percentage of them are aware of that versus those that are simply brainwashed by this insanity, I do not know. Anyway, so the suspect is still at large. Let's hope they capture him soon. And I am not for the death penalty, but in several cases, I wouldn't say that I would mind entirely turning my back for 10 minutes while nature takes its course with other people who have a vested interest. So, there are issues in the justice system. It's not towards black people. It's towards the for-profit part of the system that give it its flaws. So that's a whole other conversation. Anyway, they're taking Air Force 2 apparently to pick up Charlie Kirk's coffin and transport him. This is a really tragic event. I've talked about Charlie Kirk many times in the past couple of years at least, and he was such a great voice for the younger generation. And honestly, I think his potential is why they killed him, because he just had such great potential ahead of him. Probably would have been, almost certainly could have, if things had continued going the way they were, he could have written his ticket to become a congressman, governor, and maybe even president someday. So I think the left knew that, they saw that, and he had a target on his back. And all I can say is for all these other high-profile influencers, Matt Walsh, so many others, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, if they're going to speak in public and in an open area, they need to have some kind of bulletproof plexiglass shielding around them capable of stopping a large caliber rifle round. I don't know, but look at what happened to Trump, and this is in the end same type of scenario that ended up getting Charlie Kirk, and they've got to take better care. They've struck a blow, and we have got to wake up and realize that this is a war. This is not a war. It's, in the end, same type of scenario to defeat it. All right, this is Chris Swearingen. This is the Republic Report, and I'll be back soon.